All right, people, let's look at the financial news together. Hey, let's see what's going on in the world of money together. Let me blow this up. And I've got Yahoo Finance, Zero Hedge, and Forex Factory. Let's look at Forex Factory. Euro USD 122. Any major movement occurring? Kiwi. The Kiwi's up 0.5%. US dollar JPY 109. GBP holding steady at 141. Any major anything in red? Okay. Oh, New Zealand. I guess that's the Royal Bank of New Zealand monetary policy statement. Okay, when is that? 10 p.m. I guess it's tomorrow for them. Tomorrow morning, right? Talking about rates. Okay, so expected to be unchanged. Okay. Yeah, obviously 0.25%. Can't go much lower, can it? Bank of Japan core CPI. It's interesting. Forecast minus 1%. Still deflationary, eh? Can we pull up the graph for this? Yes, we can. Okay, so COVID. COVID was a deflationary period on the core price index, right? Consumer price index. Wow. How far back can we go? Okay, not too far. Yeah, deflation is bad for assets, right? And assets kind of drive the economy. Let's minimize. How do we get out? Can I get out? There we go. Boom. GBP, public sector net borrowing. It's actually less than forecast. Previously at 25 billion. So the trend is up. The trend is up. Wow, look at this. Is this per month? Yeah. $60 billion. Pounds even. Is it dollars? Are they measuring in GBP? Or is it dollars? It doesn't specify. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so this is GFC. Didn't really do too much borrowing, right? Even with the bailouts. Wow. Compared to this whole event. It's been ongoing for over a year. What is the UK's credit like now? Who is it borrowing from? Hey, or is it just the Bank of England buying up, indebting its government, which indebts the population of the UK? Oh boy. Anything else? FOMC member Evans speaks. Okay. He's spoken. What did he say? US dollar. Home price index. Oh, this is going to be interesting. I think homes in America are all-time high. S&P Case Shiller Composite 20 major cities in America year on year. What? It's up 12.6% year on year. Forecast previously was up 11. Housing market's been on fire. Housing market's been on fire since. Yeah. When did it really break out? It's post-COVID, isn't it? Post-COVID, people sheltering in place, parking their money in bricks and mortar. It's kind of bubbly. It's really bubbly, isn't it? Doesn't mean it has to go negative. But you never know. If you're sitting on you've bought a house for $200,000 and you're sitting on a $600,000 house now. What would you do? What would you do? Do you like where you live? You know, there's been a lot of changes where people decided the cities are no longer safe, right? Okay. Not conducive for family to start a family in the cities in America right now, is it? I remember back in the day, 90s, you had Seattle, you had San Francisco, Portland, Boston, all great places to, Richmond, Virginia, Nashville. I think Nashville's doing well. Austin, yeah, cheap as well. Not so cheap anymore, and the cities are way worse, right? Okay, not too much going on in Forex Factory, but yeah, this house pricing index. I'll be interesting to watch that as that comes in. When is that? 9 a.m. It's right now. It's right now. Boom. 1.4% month on month. Beat the forecast. 13.3% year on year. Beat the forecast by almost a percent. 0.7%. Yeah, I would love to see the actual average home price now. Here we go. Change in the selling price of a single family home in 20 metropolitan areas actual greater than forecast is good for currency. Released monthly about 60 days after the month ends. Next release, okay, June. Okay. This is one of the few non-seasonally adjusted numbers reported in the calendar, as it's the primary calculation for this indicator. It's a leading indicator of the housing industry's health. Is housing an industry? Isn't it just a place to live? No, it's become an industry. Became financialized, right? Rising house prices attract investors and spur industry activity. Yeah. Okay. It's been beating all this time, right? And when it did not beat, it was still 11.1. Wow, very high. Okay. Forex Factory is done. UK Yahoo Finance. Crypto, leading headline. UK can lead the world on crypto regulation if it acts fast. Okay. Britain could influence global policy by setting the standard for regulating crypto and taking advantage of the booming sector. Okay. The City UK lobbying group, okay, so lobbying group for Britain's financial services sector has published a white paper calling on Britain. This is not from the government, so this is just, promotion. To put in place tailored regulation for the cryptocurrency sector, the paper said Britain could influence global policy by setting the standard for regulating crypto and taking advantage of the booming sector by luring businesses with the certainty of rules. There is a fierce global race underway to see which applications of DLT, distributed ledger technology, and crypto assets will win out and who will grab the biggest slice of the value they promise. Yeah, like I was mentioning yesterday, these hedge fund managers in America have been reluctant to put money into crypto without trusted custodians and regulatory certainty, right? Even though they may be purchasing Bitcoin and ETH on their own personal accounts, they can't really deploy their fund money, right? The ultimate winner is for markets to decide, but government and regulators have an important part to play. They must set safe and robust rules for this burgeoning sector while ensuring they don't inadvertently squash good ideas before they can mature and flourish. Yeah. Bitcoin, central bank digital currencies. The City UK wants regulators to draw up custom rules. They're going to drag their feet, obviously. They're going to drag their feet for the sector that take into account the different use cases and features of crypto technology. Some features such as blockchain record keeping don't need regulation at all, the group argues. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Upland and how, your property title is, minted on a blockchain and it's all available for the public to view, right? It's great. No solicitors involved, no real estate agents, no taxes paid due to Andrew Cuomo of the New York State, so it's great. But they kind of undermines all these jobs, right? All these professions with blockchain technology. So, um, how do you replace these people who are no longer needed in the future, right? Yeah. If you're in that industry, be warned, including accounting. You've got real-time triple entry accounting occurring on these crypto networks, right? It's great. Software will eat the world. It's eating the world. The call for regulation comes amid a renewed global boom for cryptocurrencies. The market has quadrupled in value to 1.5 trillion. I think it reached 2.7 trillion since last October, as institutional investors like Tesla and Square have plowed money into Bitcoin alongside amateur investors. Goldman Sachs said this week that cryptocurrencies should be treated as a new type of asset class. The UK has a great track record in supporting innovation with regulation. I support your new ideas. Here's some rules to comply by. Yeah, how's that work? It's regulatory fintech sandboxes, for example, have been copied around the world, have they? UK doesn't lead tech. Now we need to show similar vision and nimbleness in our regulatory approach to crypto assets. European markets mixed following better than expected UK public borrowing day. I just covered that on F4 actually. UK government borrowed another £31.7 billion. Okay, at least we've got a currency now, $45 billion in April amid a continued fight against the worst of COVID. Wow, little bugs costing so much money, eh? Well, it is, because if you shut down the economy, you kind of have to fill in that hole you just made, which China told you to make, right? It borrowed was £15.6 billion, less than the same month in 2020, when the UK was still deep in its initial lockdown. However, the borrowing is still the second highest since records began in 1993. Why did your records only go back to 1993? Interesting, isn't it? In London, the FTSE 100 moved 0.1% lower. FTSE 100, just a dead stock market, dead bourse, they used to call it, bourses, right? While the French CAC was up 0.2% up in Paris. German DAX was up 0.7% after the long weekend. At the budget, I set out steps we are taking to keep the public finances on a sustainable footing by bringing debt under control over the medium term. I think once you cross 120% of debt, public debt to GDP, you're basically facing a credit downgrades, right? I think UK debt has already been downgraded once or twice, right? It's slipping down the ranks. But we also need to, this is Rishi speaking some more, we also need to focus on driving a stronger economy recovery from this pandemic. It's 2021, almost middle of 2021. We can almost write this year off with the stop-start nature of this opening. This is why the government is continuing a comprehensive package of support to help businesses and workers get back on their feet. And evidence shows that our plan for jobs is working. When does the furlough payment stop? That's when you get the economy up and running. When do the nightclubs open up properly? That's when you get the economy back on its feet. Nightclubs really do drive a nighttime economy. A nighttime economy drives your daytime shopping activity because you want to look fancy at the night. You want to take people out, right? You want to celebrate life. You spend a lot more money at night than you do during the day, maybe. It's own separate economy. If you kill that nighttime economy, your daytime economy suffers as well, right? What's the point of slaving away all during the day if you've got no release at night, right? The FTSE 100 was struggling for direction like a drunk in a blindfold on Tuesday morning, not unfairly given a continuing uncertainties over vaccine versus variants, the risk of inflation, and the continuing volatility in the commodity and crypto market, says AJ Bell, investment director Russ Mole. Bitcoin currently $37,038. Relatively resilient jobs market has helped government. Yeah, how does crypto perform when the economies open up? Right. They're not going to print as much money as they have done during this past year and a bit. So that inflation driver thesis of investment into a scarce asset becomes less attractive to Wall Street players who will rather bet on maybe like small businesses opening up. Russell 2000 could be an outperformer, right? If they made money in Bitcoin, maybe a 2, 3x or 4x, won't they rotate their profits? Which they may have already done. And when do they seek to re-enter? When it's more gives more value to them, right? What do they consider valuable? It's hard for them to price, right? If they're using traditional metrics. A relatively resilient jobs market has helped government borrowing come in at a little lower than expected for April. The question longer term is if this means that tax increases and spending cuts can be eased slightly from the current projections. Okay. London is ready for the boom. Can you feel it? Okay. Charlie bit my finger video. NFT sells for £500,000. Wow. Still bubbly in crypto, right? It would look like a bank run. Cryptocurrencies face dangerous times. Critics warn. Okay. Even by the standards of cryptocurrencies, the past 7 days has been a wild ride. The price of Bitcoin crashed 30% on Wednesday to $30,000, less than half the peak reached last month after China announced a new crackdown and Elon Musk announced Tesla would not accept Bitcoin as payment. If hash drives price, as Max Kaiser has been touting and spouting for a few years, what happens when all these Chinese miners go offline? Right? There's less protection of the network, less perceived security in the short term, right? As new hash reemerges elsewhere, it's going to be a huge drop in hash rate, which may precede even lower prices, right? Traders sold off almost every major coin. This is concerningly, the main crypto exchanges weren't able to cope with the sell-off. They can never cope. There should be like limit downs. The crypto exchanges should just get together and determine a limit down number. Maybe it's 10% on Bitcoin, and a limit up maybe 10%. All right, that would not be a bad thing. If you don't know what limit down is when if a price crashes by a certain amount, then the exchanges are turn off. They're basically doing that already through their platforms not being able to cope. And I think even Arthur Hayes during the COVID crash was like, "Hey, we're calling it. We're turning off the order engine." Because there was no orders, there was zero bids for Bitcoin. It would have gone to zero, literally, during that crash. At least on their platform, it'd be a BitMEX value of like what $500-600 could have gone down to. For critics, and would have taken longer to recover from instead of the instant rebound. So all credit to Arthur for making that bold decision. Good on him. Francis Coppola, a financial economist who has written extensively about cryptocurrencies, believes exchanges could struggle to cope with demand for withdrawals if enough people rush for the door and want to swap their crypto for traditional or fiat money. It would look very like a traditional bank run. If the exchanges didn't have enough fiat currency to meet withdrawal requests, they would either have to obtain more in a hurry through a fire sale of assets or refuse to allow people to draw down fiat currencies. Do you own your crypto? What if sometimes Coinbase, when you deposit dollars, will hold on to those dollars for a week or two before you are able to purchase your Bitcoin or Ethereum? What if that happens on the way out as well? In practice, that would mean shutting down apps, which Coppola points out might look to a customer like a technical outage. At the very heart of potential problems in the $2 trillion market are stablecoins, a vitally important component of the crypto world, which acts as a bridge to the traditional finance system. Stablecoins are so cool because they are pegged to the value of a real-world asset, typically a currency like the dollar. They alleviate the problem faced by cryptocurrencies, huge volatility. Yeah. Shall we continue now? But yeah, potential bank runs on the exchanges. Yeah. UK trade with EU falls by 23% in the first quarter as Brexit and COVID hits. Yeah. UK shoppers return to supermarkets. Wall Street, record highs, hey? Let's have a look. Does it show you Wall Street? See S&P 500. Is that near the high? Dow Jones, I think that's near the high. Gold is flat. Nikkei 225. Finally, I think it's the all-time high is around 40,000. So it's got some room to grow. The all-time high was in 1989. Or North Oil Sea. Yeah. China outstrips Germany as Britain's biggest source of imports. Is this the first time? But wow, China's on fire. They told Western countries to sit down and just stop their economies, right? China is number one already, if you don't know the actual numbers. Electronic goods. UK imports of textiles jumped in 2020, boosted by demand for face masks and personal protective equipment. Clothing, footwear. Are Yeezys made in China? Probably, right? Or Thailand, somewhere in Southeast Asia. Makes them for like $20, sells them for like $400, right? Good business. And during a brief period, 6 months spell 20 years ago, Europe's biggest economy has sold more goods to the UK than any other country since records began in 1997. But imports from Germany have declined since April 2019 amid increased uncertainty around the UK's departure from the European Union. The share of Britain's total imports from Germany has sunk 2.6% to 11.8% over the past 3 years. Brexit. Summer boom beckons for German economy after winter COVID blues. German business morale brightened to hit a 2-year high in May as COVID-19 curves were eased and infections fell. That's good news. Get the economy going again. It's been too long now. There will be increasing hotel offices in particular. London landlord helical, I believe that little pods for young people to live in. Okay. I wonder what the UK GDP debt to GDP number is actually. Does it show you? Wow, look at this: £300 billion borrowed in 2020. At least we're not borrowing as fast this year. Up to April 2021, we're at 31 billion, I believe. Looks like. No, that's just 1 month. Yeah, that's just 1 month. So eventually this will start slowing down, right? I think 58 billion April 2020. Oof. Still borrowing. We borrowed 14.3% of gross domestic product in 2020. Wow. The amount of UK government debt now sits at 2.17 trillion at the end of April 2021, or around 98.5% of GDP. Ooh, we're about to cross 100, right? A large proportion of the additional spending by government was generated from the various support schemes for businesses and workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, increasing day-to-day spending by 204.1 billion. This was that pre-war or post-war? Basically, this is World War III economic warfare, right? I've been saying that for a while. Who's the aggressor? Who's the victim? You decide. I know who it is on both sides. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on zero hedge. Let's go on zero hedge. Gasoline demand, India recovery, likely oil drivers analysis by Vince Lancy. What is this telling us? CME will West Texas intermediate open interest by month for select months. Can you detect a trend? It's hard to see on this, right? Green trend. Open interest all-time high. Oh no, this is not. This is all the months, all the contracts open, right? Open then close. So this is the current one. Open interest is higher than previous months. They're expecting higher prices, right? I believe. Month after month this year, we have seen outright prices rally against a backdrop or less than stellar spread performance. So there's a price difference between WTI oil and the crude, the CL, right? Okay, this is kind of boring. Bitcoin's rallying, kind of 37,673. Wall Street considers the flippening. Goldman and JP Morgan see the likelihood of Ethereum overtaking Bitcoin. It will eventually. The market just issued a major warning of what's to come. Phoenix Capital Research. Inflation is no longer just running hot. J Powell wanted it to run hot. It is roaring. US manufacturing PMI, which is a producer manufacturing index, I believe, is a monthly survey that interviews managers in the private sector to see what they're experiencing in terms of business. It is widely considered to be one of the best gauges for the real state of the economy. With that in mind, the US PMI for the month of May 21 just revealed that costs for input prices as well as new businesses at service providers have hit their highest level since 2009. As one well-known economist put it, average selling prices for goods and services are both rising at unprecedented rates, which will feed through to higher consumer inflation in coming months. Remember, inflation doesn't just appear overnight. Instead, it slowly works its way into the financial system in phases. Phase 1, raw material price spikes. Phase 2, factory gate price spikes. And phase 3, retail prices. Okay, copper booming, gasoline booming, adverts booming, lumber. Oh, this is lumber over here. Wow, 375%, which is basically a 5x. Gold breaking out. Everyone kind of seen this channel. Even I predicted this around here. The above chart is telling that gold was confused as to whether or not the Fed to stop inflation for most of the last year. No longer. Gold is now telling us that the Fed is no longer going to stop inflation. It is telling us that inflation is here and only going to get worse. Actually, you know what? Gold actually performs better during deflationary periods, hardcore deflationary periods. Gold really does well because it's the base of the extant currency money pyramid. Sorry. So as there's more fear out there, people will start going from the top layers of the pyramid, and it's an inverted pyramid down to the bottom layer. The bottom layer being gold. In a expansive economy, capital should flow away from the base of the money pyramid, right? So people always still confuse this issue. I don't know why, but it obviously will do well in inflationary periods, but not as well as deflationary periods. Will Bitcoin ever take on that role? It will probably, but not this cycle. Maybe in the next cycle, or in a halftime cycle. Gold is no longer telling us that the Fed is going to stop inflation. It's telling us that inflation is here and only going to get worse. Pay him for the special report. Yeah, no, I think I'm good. Don't know what that is. Time to move on. Bipartisan infrastructure talks and life support. Yeah, U.S. infrastructure is just crumbling. Has been for decades. Elizabeth Warren bill would force banks to reveal account flows to catch wealthy tax cheats, focus on racial inequities. What is their role in Biden's administration? The higher up she goes, the worse it's going to be for U.S. investors. Senator, she's a senator. Supercharge the IRS's ability to catch wealthy tax cheats. The wealthiest tax cheats are the corporations, or they use the tax laws they enact and pay for to not pay any taxes. Or they reinvest their income revenue into quote research and development, whatever. There's ways around for them not to pay taxes. Tax the wealthy, tax the rich. The IRS can collect $6 for every $1 invested in audits. Yeah, it's good return on investment, isn't it? 61. Oh boy. Jeff Bezos. Amazon is going to buy MGM Studios, $9 billion. That's a pretty good deal, right? Not for the love of art or artists, but for the gratis intellectual property that can be switched to its streaming service. Futures. Tech stocks jump up. Fed officials talk down inflationary risks. One side they're telling you inflation is roaring, the other side they're telling you there's no risk from the Fed. Jay Powell's mouth. Yeah. So all these articles about inflation and deflation can be just boiled down to just analyzing the Fed balance sheet, right? Are they purchasing? Are they rolling over? Are they buying new assets? That's all it boils down to. Chicago segregates restaurants for unvaxxed, all under the guise of getting things back to normal. Wow, look at this. Moe's Cantina, boarded up business. Chicago was a thriving city. Not this year or last year, right? Two-tier society. UK government says World Health Organization needs to explore all possible theories on COVID origins. Black Lives Matter agenda. What is their agenda? Which department? Sports BLM. A source within the Biden State Department wishes to remain anonymous, has shared with Human Events News a doc. I really hate anonymous sources, but anyway. Sports, maybe he still needs his job. That indicates that all US diplomatic and consular posts are being encouraged to display shows of support for Black Lives Matter on Tuesday, May 25th. That's today. The 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. The memo reads in part, the department supports the use of the term Black Lives Matter in messaging, content, speeches, and other diplomatic engagements. They're basically legitimizing this movement, making them a political-ish party, BLM party, with foreign audiences to advance racial equity and access to justice. Wow. Imagine if US federal buildings display this flag somewhere outside of their buildings. That would supercharge some some back and forth exchanges, right? Big Pharma is already preparing vaccines for the next global pandemic. You need to have full finish, you need to have bulk, you need to have technology choice. Future pandemics already being planned for. Lithuania heroic stand against China. Oh, this is interesting. Lithuania, small Baltic country, used to be a former Soviet Union country. Population 2.8 million. Yet Lithuania has taken a series of steps against the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, mafia. In recent months, that would at times have struck fear into the hearts of larger nations such as the United States, Japan, Germany, and France, apparently precipitated by a recognition of the genocide in China's Xinjiang region. Lithuania blocked Chinese investment, started a trade office in Taiwan. Ooh, very provocative. And most recently, on May 22nd, pulled out on a Beijing-led forum for economic cooperation in Central and Eastern Europe. Good on Central and Eastern Europe. Lithuania's actions are indicative of a worsening relationship between the European Union, of which it is a member, and China. Good on Lithuania. You don't want to be part of EU. One road, one belt. That's brilliant. Tiananmen Square. Remember, people take part in human chain protests and support the Hong Kong Way, a recreational pro-democracy Baltic Way. Yes, protests against Soviet rule. These people still remember the former Soviet Union. The scars run deep, especially for people like this. Given the increasing overbearing circumstances of China global economic expansion and influence, Lithuania did the right thing. There's no such thing as 17+1 anymore. As for practical purposes, Lithuania is out. Lithuania's foreign minister, Gabrielis Landsbergis, said in an email to Politico, the wealthier, more democratic EU is obviously the better choice for the country. Vaccination rollout, tackling pandemics are just a few recent examples of the EU 27 united in solidarity and purpose. Unity of the 27 is key to success in EU relations with external partners. Who is this? Relations with China should be no exception. Lithuania called a Beijing-led organization divisive of European Union unity. Lithuania urged other EU members to leave the forum given deterioration of ties with China, of Uyghur forced labor, and the sanctioning of EU officials. Yeah, history of resistance against tyranny. Good on them. Good on them. There's only a few people. No, maybe a few thousand. So they still remember the history. Those scars run deep. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? UK Health Secretary suggests critics of vaccine passports are crazy. Let's have a read of this. Mail on Sunday commentator Dan Hodges urged people to ignore the crazies as he effusively praised the NHS tracking app for being a centralized surveillance hub. Ignore the crazies, just download the NHS app, tweeted Hodges. It's amazing. You take a photo of your driver's license, do a cool face scan, and everything's there. COVID records, medical records, everything. I now want COVID passports just so I can use it. It's too obvious now, Dan. What have you been paid or offered? This fantastic app that keeps me apart from you and your anti-vax friends. His tweet was subsequently retweeted by Matt Hancock, who over the last year has become the face of the UK's coronavirus response. Why did Matt Hancock retweet a contrarian ratio tweet disparaging crazies? Asked Big Brother Watch director Silky Carlo. He shows profound disrespect to the MPs, many from his own party, who reject COVID passes and want a serious debate, and the anti-ID British public. His attitude will fall down on him like a ton of bricks. The British government lied for months in claiming that no vaccine passport was being developed for domestic events, despite that being the plan all along. This program would serve to introduce a Chinese communist-style social credit score system with potentially horrendous implications for basic liberties and freedoms. Yes, very true indeed. Imagine the year 2020 without Fauci. Yeah, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? People didn't need government or entities created by government. They also didn't require force to protect themselves. Let's never forget this. But yet, let's make the truth clear over and over again. Okay, what truth? The truth that American people, along with people around the world, adjusted to the spreading coronavirus much more quickly than they did their self-appointed political minders. As I point out in my new book, when politicians panicked, New York City Mayor de Blasio was encouraging increasingly cautious New Yorkers to go see movies at a time when more and more of them were staying home. Remember the pictures in Chinatown. Plus, he was riding the city subways to encourage ridership that was on decline as a consequence of fear about the virus. In the US, allegedly science-denying red states, as in the states that locked down last, citizens had become more than cautious well before the wholly superfluous and destructive lockdowns reared their ugly heads. They were dining out less, washing their hands more, avoiding crowds more. It's funny how fear of potential hospitalization or death focuses the mind on avoiding either outcome. Notable about this very human desire to cheat illness, it wasn't just an American thing. Holman Jenkins pointed out last summer that masks and hand sanitizer were scarce in Germany at a time when Angela Merkel was still downplaying the virus last summer. The people are a market. Repeat this truth too over and over again. While processing limited information, they began to take precautions. Government force in 2020 was wholly unnecessary, which raises a basic question about Anthony Fauci, Robert Redfield, USAID, and the CDC. What if the two political bureaucrats lacked a well-funded, taxpayer-funded purchase? Would Americans have dropped dead in high numbers? The question itself insults the American people along with human nature. Up front, people respond to incentives. They respond to reality. If the virus had been an indiscriminate killer, the lengths Americans would have gone in order to avoid infection would have well exceeded what any politician or government drone could have ever imagined. At the same time, it's worth pointing out that if the virus had been a rabid life ender, we'd have known it well in advance of it reaching the US. Think the internet. Think the smartphone. China is dense with them. If its people had been dying en masse, there's no way this could have been hidden. After which, it's useful to point out the obvious. That Redfield and Fauci didn't invent communications, the internet or smartphones. So without the two functionary words about a spreading virus, would have just as easily reached the American people. Some will point out how contradictory Fauci has been over the last 14 months about the virus, masks, and other things related. That's just shooting fish in a barrel. That's easy, right? Fauci's an easy target from his actions and words. So the better answer is that Fauci, Redfield, USI aid, and the CDC weren't needed in the first place. No doubt such a statement will cause the heads or lefties like David Brooks to explode. But Brooks's feelings don't alter reality. You can't affect reality and nature with your feelings, snowflakes. In Brooks's case, national plans excite him endlessly, which means national government organizations excite him. But it perhaps hasn't occurred to Brooks to consider a world without Fauci at all. Better yet, Brooks might ask himself if dead Americans will be piled up on city streets around the country absent Fauci at all. Probably not. Actually, definitely not. That's the case because the same profit motive that continues to bring us closer to cancer cures, along with advances that make it possible to live through cancer, also ensures that capitalism would have produced all manner of virus mitigating strategies. Ludwig von Mises described profits in human action as being a consequence of the motivating removing unease from our lives. Right, you invent stuff to make your life easier. That's progress. That's engineering, ingenuity, and putting ideas to help yourself and others. So, does anyone seriously think the wealth focus would punt on creating information about and solutions for a situation like the one that was presented to us in 2020 when a globally spreading pathogen had red and blue state Americans like on edge along with the rest of the world? The question answers itself. What form would a private person of the USI aid or CDC take? There's no way of knowing, and that's the point. Government is constrained by a static known, while the desire for profits always and everywhere results in the unexpected. All anyone really needs to say is that a capitalist system capable of producing Amazon or Apple and its iPhones could put together a myriad innovative ways to deal with a virus. Which brings us to the tragedy that was and is Fauci, Redfield, I'm not going to say this anymore, and the CDC. Not constrained by market signals or profits, Fauci and Redfield quite simply felt things. Emotions guided them. So did fear, in possession of swagger that was not their own. They created fear, all the while pushing the easily gulled think politicians towards panic. In other words, governments create the very crises it aims to avoid by trying to avoid. And please think about this. The virus has been in the news for months and has been spreading for months. During this time, American stock markets have reached all-time highs as the virus spread. Free people don't cause crises. Crises are born of panicky politicians doing something, quotation marks, that always and everywhere involves replacing the marketplace, that is the people with the narrow knowledge of the very few. It's called central planning. And its imposition always creates a crisis. So it did. Scared of their own shadow politicians, let experts like Fauci and Redfield terrify them into a command and control stance. The rest is tragic history as jobs and businesses vanished in a climate of fear created by politicians and bureaucrats who would never miss a paycheck or a meal. So what would the world and life have been like sans Fauci et al.? Your answer could be found in February of 2020 before expert reverent politicians panicked. That was a really good article by Tyler. And I think I should end this right here. All right. Cheers, people. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed. Got something out of it. I did. Hope you did too. Cheers. Bye.